Hello, this is Reverend Don Lewis coming to you from beautiful Salem. And tonight our question comes to us from Dragoquan. And Dragoquan asks, what are the best goddess and god figures to have on a beginning altar? And the first part of my answer to this is that there is no inherent reason why you need to have representational figures on an altar. Many people choose to, but it's certainly not necessary. And so my first answer to this is that you don't really need to do that if you don't want to. If you do want to have something to represent deity, but you don't feel particularly connected to any individual deity, a very good example of something you could do is a diamond. And on our altar here at Tituba Temple, we have this glass diamond which represents the idea that deity is like a diamond, one stone with many facets, which is very important in Correllian thought. It's not an analogy that begins with Correllians, it's very widespread in Wicca, but it's one that's very strongly emphasized in Correllianism. And when I found Correllians using these diamonds on their altars, I was really impressed by the idea and started doing it myself. And I find it to be one of the best possible representations of deity, in my opinion. So I would say that if you wanted to have a representational image on your altar, but had no particular deity in mind that you wish to represent, a glass diamond could represent the totality of deity very well. So I would recommend that. Beyond that, my next suggestion would be that if you have a particular patron deity, you might want that deity represented on your altar. Or if you just want something to represent God and Goddess in a universal sense, look for something that represents that to you. It can be a figure, it can also be a symbol. Some people like to have a seashell, for example, to represent the Goddess, or an acorn or a depiction of an acorn to represent the God, or any of many other items that either are naturally occurring, like the seashell, or are works of art that depict the archetypes of deity. Or you might also look for whatever altar figures come to you and assume that those are correct. For example, on our altar here in Holy City, we have, among the many different figures, this image of the goddess Kuan Yin. And this image was given to me by Lady Bitterwind back in the late 70s, I would say around 77, 78. And it's found a place on many of my altars in intervening years and always been a very important deity figure to me. And it's not one that I went out of my way to find. It was given to me. And I have always taken that as being a sign that it was one of the figures that I was meant to have, one of the deities I was meant to have a particular reverence for. And that has been what has happened. So you might, instead of choosing an altar figure, let the altar figure choose you by virtue of coming to you. Other than that, I would say that you really should go with what you are drawn to. If you're drawn to particular altar figures, by all means use them. If you're not drawn to any, you don't need to. You can have an altar that does not include figures. Many altars don't. You can even do what a particular high priestess in Chicago did. She had a particular interest in the television series Hercules and Xena back in the 90s, and she got action figures of Hercules to represent the god and Xena to represent the goddess, because this had meaning to her. You may remember we talked about this in an earlier vlog dealing with pop cultural icons. And so how you represent deity really is very individual to you, particularly if it's your personal altar. Now, if it's a temple altar, it becomes a little bit more complex because you want the images on the temple altar to have meaning to a wider range of people, but still, you can really do many, many different things. And so it really is up to you. There is nothing that would be ideal for every person. So, in the end, my answer is to consider these various different options and see which one works for you. And so, until next time, may you blessed be.
Hi, I'm Terry the Stone Lady. For all your crystal and stone needs, come to witchschoolstore.com.